Ladies and gentlemen, I think I've done it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a different video. So normally, I just pick a movie and talk about, well, what I thought about it. But today I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do a ranking video, a ranking of the MCU. Now, you've probably seen these all over the internet, people saying, my opinion on the MCU and ranking them all. Well, no. I wanted to see if I could find objectively the best MCU film. So, without further ado, let me explain to you the process of how I did it, and, well, let me show you what I think is the most objective way possible to rank the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So what I did was create a formula which factors in my personal opinion, the total gross of the movie, the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, and the fan score. Now, I didn't create them all equally because, for example, I know that general fan opinion is more important than my personal opinion when we're talking about the widespread success of a movie. So what I did was my personal ranking of the film accounted for 5% of whatever the final ranking would be. The total gross was 15%, and both the critic score or critic ranking placement and the fan score or placement, each of those were 40%. So, let's just get into it. Coming in at number 23, or in last place, you probably guessed it, it's The Incredible Hulk. Now, personally, I hate that this movie gets so much hate because it's actually a pretty entertaining and a pretty solid movie up until the climax, which, yeah, that's not good. Your climax is your most important part where everything comes together. It's the most exciting part of the movie, and that's the least exciting part of the movie. It just gets really messy up to that point, but it's the lowest grossing MCU film of all time, only collecting $265 million. The critic score is 67, the fan score is 70, and the critic consensus says, The Incredible Hulk may not be quite the smashing success that fans of Marvel's raging behemoth might hope for, but it offers more than enough big green action to make up for its occasionally puny narrative. Up next at 22nd, Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2, it's a pretty rough movie. It is entertaining, so it's good that it got that right, but it's not very special. 621 million, 73 critic score, 71 fan score, and acting is solid and it's action-packed, but other than that, yeah, it's nothing special. Next up in 21st, Thor the Dark World. I made a video defending Thor the Dark World. It's on this channel, so please go check it out. But as much as I try to sympathize for it and find the good in it, general opinion for it is pretty low. 644 million, 16th out of the 23 films, 66 critic score, 76 fan score. It and The Incredible Hulk hover around last place, often on Rotten Tomatoes. And the quote was, "It may not be the finest film to come to the MCU, or from the Marvel Universe, but Thor the Dark World still offers plenty of humor and high-stakes actions that fans have come to expect." So yeah, it's not a horrible movie. I like it. And I think the dynamic between Thor and Loki is great. If you want to hear more about my opinion about it, check out my video where it's called In Defense of Thor the Dark World. I hate seeing it this low, but general opinion, guys, that's what we're going for here. Alright, up next in 20th, Captain Marvel. So it just occurred to me that I have never talked about Captain Marvel on this channel. Or, well, that's false. In my X-Men Apocalypse video, I made a slight comparison to Captain Marvel, but I have not directly talked about the movie and my feelings about it on this channel. So personally, if I could describe this movie in one word, it would just be, like, bleh. The title character is the least interesting and least likable character. Everything works out so conveniently. You never get a good understanding of what her powers are, what she can do, what she's weak to. It's just like, oh, she can do that. How convenient. Visually, there's like no color. It's so dull and so like gray. Like that's the only colors I can describe it. Like I remember when Man of Steel came out, one of the biggest complaints was, okay, but visually it looks like it has like a gray tint over it. I feel like Captain Marvel is like that, but it's like a grayish brown tint. So visually, it's not really engaging. It's not fun to look at. And she doesn't even really show growth as a character either, which kind of bothers me because she starts out as a very arrogant soldier and she ends the film as a very arrogant soldier, just not a part of the group that she was in. So that's not great. But my personal opinion aside, I mean, it's still low on this list, but it made $1.12 billion, which is in the top 10. It's ahead of Spider-Man Far From Home by only $500,000. The critic ranking was 78, which is pretty solid, but the fan ranking was 48. It's the lowest in the MCU on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'm going to read the review to you because I thought it was funny. Packed with action, humor, and visual thrills, Captain Marvel introduces the MCU's latest hero with an origin story that makes effective use of the franchise's signature formula. That's really strange to me because, first of all, I didn't really think it was that funny. And I was just talking about how it's not visually stunning at all. Next up, at 19th, we have Thor. This pains me to put it this low. I absolutely love Thor. I think in my personal ranking, it's like number 6. I love Kenneth Branagh. I just love this movie, and I hate that it's so low on this list. I don't think a lot of people directly hate this movie. I think it's just a lot of people don't talk about it. And I know a lot of people love the Taika Waititi version of Thor. But anyways, 449 million, 21 of 23 in terms of gross ranking, 77% critics, 76 fans, so pretty on par there, or pretty even in terms of opinion there. And they just said, with wit, humor, and human drama, Thor is a mighty Marvel entertainment. So, again, it's an entertaining movie, and I really like it. I love this movie. I love the themes. I love the Shakespearean themes. Maybe that's just because I am a Shakespeare person. But I hate putting it this low, but it is. Next up at 18th, Captain America: The First Avenger. Another movie that I can't believe is this low. So one thing that doesn't surprise me that much is a lot of the Phase 1 movies did not gross a ton, with the exception of ones that we will get to in a bit. Which I guess makes sense because superhero movies were still on the come up, especially Marvel Studios was still on the rise. But what surprises me about Captain America, I'll read this to you, it only grossed $370 million, which is 22nd place out of 23. First of all, in terms of like score, it got an 80% critic score and a 74% fan score. So people actually liked this movie. And I'm just surprised that it's Captain America. So I'm confused of how it didn't make a lot more money than it did. But yeah, anyways. I think it's the best movie in Phase 1. It's a top 10 film for me. The fan or critic consensus was solidly old-fashioned blockbuster entertainment. Coming in at number 17, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp. Personally, I do not really like this movie. I think it's one of the most boring movies I've probably ever seen, which is not good. If a movie is just a bad movie, if you got at least some form of entertainment in it out of it, I think that's okay, and I think that can be considered a win because movies are made for entertainment. But for me, Ant-Man and the Wasp is not entertaining, like, at all. I mean, Paul Rudd still does an absolutely great job, and I love the first Ant-Man, but I really do not look forward to watching Ant-Man and the Wasp when it comes to watching through the MCU. Because I think the story is boring, and I think the villain, Ghost, is one of the most boring villains. Boring is this movie to me. But $623 million, 88% critic score. So critics loved this movie, 76% fan score, and the critic consensus was it's a much-needed palate cleanser. So I kind of get that. It's after Infinity War. We just had all this massive Phase 3 build-up. So, I mean, I get it. It's kind of a low-stakes film, especially after Infinity War. But I hope I hope that critics liked it because they genuinely liked it, and not they were like, oh, thank goodness we have a low-stakes movie now. But Ant-Man and the Wasp at 17th. Next, at 16th, we have Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, I'll go ahead and say, people write it off way too much. I still definitely see the problems with the movie. I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't have any problems. But James Spader as Ultron, I have absolutely no words. I mean, I think Ultron was good, so Thanos could be great. I mean, yes, this is a long movie. I think it's 2.5 hours. Yeah, 141 minutes. So that's 2 hours and 21 minutes. So it is pretty long. It's an investment. But I really recommend watching it again because, I mean, a lot of people love the dinner party scene. And Ultron is just such a well-written villain. Sure, his theme, like global domination through the internet, okay, maybe a little cliche for a villain. Maybe not super thought out or really well planned, but he himself as a character performed, wow. I mean, he's so good. It grossed $1.39 billion, fourth out of the 23 MCU movies, 75% critic, 83% fan, and the consensus was it is a overstuffed but mostly satisfying sequel. I would recommend it a watch. I definitely think of the 4 movies that have the word Avengers in the title, it's the weakest of the 4. But it's not a horrible movie. Like, it's really entertaining. And yeah, that final fight scene is really fun. Alright guys, we've made it to the top 15. In at 15th is Iron Man 3. Personally, Iron Man 3 is my favorite Iron Man film. I just love it. I love the PTSD concept, Tony suffering from that after the events of the Avengers in New York in 2012. I really don't know why, but that story arc, that bump in his life that he has to go through, I really like that. It's really real, and it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's really well done. So I really like that, and this movie is just, man, it's just a good movie in my opinion. It grossed a total of $1.21 billion to make the 6th place ranking in that category, has a 79% critic score, 78% fan score, and the consensus was Robert Downey Jr. leads the way, the movie is entertaining, and it's a strong movie in the series that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love this movie. I think it's great, but it's coming in at 15th. Up next in the 14th spot, we have AntMan. AntMan is a top 5 MCU movie for me. I love AntMan. I love the father-daughter, not struggle, but the journey that Scott is going on to be back with his daughter. I feel like it's really new. I don't think we see that a lot in superhero movies, and I think it's just well done. Grossed $518 million. It's only in the 20th spot. Had an 83% critic score and an 86% fan score. And yeah, Paul Rudd's the star of the show here. It's a great solo movie. Next in 13th, we have Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is a top 5 MCU movie for me. It's actually my second favorite MCU film. I just love the structure of this movie. It has a very clear beginning, middle, end. Everything is so distinct, and really the transitions are great. It's a movie that is written well and it progresses really well. Check out my video about that. It's a very short video. $676 million for 15th place in that category. 89% critic rating, 86% fan ranking. So it's a very different movie, but a very good different movie. Next up in 12th, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Guys, we just had 3 movies in a row that are top 5 films for me. This one is number 3 in my personal rankings, and man, it makes me teary-eyed every single time with, spoiler alert, with that Yondu death. Make sure you check out my video on Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Grossed $869 million to make it up into the 11th place spot there. 85% critic score, 87% fan score, and it's just a great sequel. Coming up in 11th place, we have SpiderMan Homecoming. In my personal opinion, SpiderMan Homecoming is one of the better Spider-Man movies, period, that we've had. Being the second reboot of a franchise, it definitely has some problems, but it's not a bad movie. It grossed $880 million, cracking the top 10 in that category. 92% critic score, 87% fan score. and according to the Rotten Tomatoes critic consensus, a colorful, fun adventure that fits in the sprawling MCU without getting bogged down in franchise building. Coming in 10th place, as much as I hate to say it, Spider-Man Far From Home. If you guys don't know why I'm feeling like this, check out my video on this page. It's called Why I Don't Like Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm not going to talk about this too much because if you've seen that video, you know why I don't like this movie. But I don't like this movie. Like, I really don't like this movie. But my opinion aside, it grossed $1.12 billion to be in 9th place. It's behind Captain Marvel by only $500,000. 91% critic score, 95% fan score. The highest fan score on Rotten Tomatoes for an MCU film. And they said it's a breezily unpredictable blend of teen romance and superhero action, which stylishly sets the stage for the next era of the MCU. Yeah, I want to move on because I don't like this movie. Number 9, we have Avengers Infinity War. Avengers Infinity War is my favorite Avengers movie. Of the 4 Avengers movie, I love Avengers Infinity War the absolute most. It's a top 10 MCU movie, in my opinion. It grossed $2.04 billion, getting second in that category. 85% critic, 91% fan, and it's just a jaw-dropping experience. I remember going to see this with my buddies, and man, once the snap happened and everybody faded away, that was, wow, it's just crazy, and I think this is the best movie when it comes to action. Infinity War, it's so great. Yeah, I love Avengers Infinity War. I'm glad that it made this top 10. In number 8, we have the other war movie, Captain America Civil War. It's a top 10 for me, and it's a long movie, but it doesn't feel too long. It has a really interesting and a really engaging plot. And one that I really just wouldn't expect, but actually works. Like, really well. It grossed $1.15 billion to get 7th in that category, and has a 91% critic score and an 89% fan score. So, all that to say, great start for Phase 3, and just a great movie. Coming in at number 7, we have Black Panther. Black Panther is a top 5 movie for me. I absolutely love it. If you remember earlier what I was saying about the first Thor movie, I love it due to the Shakespearean elements. And I feel like Black Panther has a lot of them too. I think it just does it better than Thor does. Thor is great, absolutely love that movie, but I really like Black Panther too. Black Panther grossed $1.34 billion to get the 5th place in that spot. It's actually the highest grossing Marvel film that is not an Avengers film, and it's the only superhero movie up to its release that had ever received an Academy Award nomination for Best Picture. Has a 97% critic score, 79% fan scores, and the critic consensus said it elevates superhero cinema to thrilling new heights. Next up at number 6, Captain America the Winter Soldier. Captain America the Winter Soldier is by far my favorite MCU movie. We get to see Steve Rogers in the 21st century on his own. At the end of Captain America the First Avenger, we see him wake up in New York in 2011, 2012, whenever that's supposed to be, super confused. The first Avengers movie scratches on the surface of him being a man out of time, and this movie really deeply focuses in on it. And hey, I mean, it's a cool spy movie too. Grossed a total of $714 million, taking the 14th spot in that category. Has a 90% critic score, 92% fan score, and is considered a superior entry. At number 5, we got Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok, again, a top 10 for me. Grossed $853 million to take the 12th place spot. Has a 93% critic rating, 87% fan rating. It's a rebranding of Thor, or a new adaptation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's version of Thor that's different, entertaining, funny, and visually stunning. It's a very colorful movie. Coming in at number 4, we have Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy was the first MCU movie that I saw in theaters, so I do have a little bit of a soft spot for it. It has grossed a total of $772 million, taking the 13th spot, It is a 91% critic rating and a 92% fan rating, so very much in agreement there. It introduces new, mostly unknown characters to fans, and it does it really well and makes for a heartfelt, sincere movie. Alright guys, we've made it. Top 3. Coming in third place, Iron Man. This is the movie that started it all. If I'm going to be honest, I think this is a great movie, but I do think it's a little overrated. I would like to know if Iron Man is your favorite, or at least in the top 5 for you. Please let me know why it is, because I think it's great, but for me it's just a top 15 movie. I just don't really see what makes it that top 5 movie, so I'd be happy to hear what you say. But anyways, it grossed a total of $585 million, only for the 19th spot, but this was the first MCU movie, so that's not too much of a bad thing. Has a 94% critic rating, 91% fan rating, and the critic consensus was it turbocharged the superhero genre, kicking off the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the number 2 spot, Avengers Endgame. Personally, I don't think this is number 2. I have a video which I go over the things that kind of rub me the wrong way in Avengers Endgame, which please go check that out. It's on this channel. But let me just get this straight. I don't think that this is a bad movie. I actually really liked Avengers Endgame, and I think it's a pretty solid conclusion. I had a few issues with some of the creative choices, but I mean, that's me versus almost the entire world. Avengers Endgame is the highest grossing film of all time, $2.79 billion, knocking off Avatar. Now, I did take a re-release to attain that feat, but nonetheless, it is still number 1 in that category now. It has a 94% critic rating, 90% fan rating. The critic consensus is Avengers Endgame does whatever it takes, to deliver a satisfying finale. And that's what it is for me. It's just satisfying. I don't think it's incredible, just satisfying. After this long and fun process, I think I can objectively say the best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is The Avengers. The Avengers grossed $1.51 billion. It's currently third out of all MCU films, but it was in first until Avengers Infinity War. That's 6 years it stayed on top. It has a 92% critic rating, 91% fan rating, and this raised the bar for Marvel movies. I think that it makes sense that this movie ends up being number 1. First of all, I don't know a lot of people who dislike this movie. I know a lot of people who may say it's not their favorite. Me personally, it's just right outside the top 10. But still, I don't think I know anyone who just outright dislikes this movie. And you have to think about the cultural impact that it had. It proved that a cinematic universe like this could work and that it could exist. It could happen. We have had these characters, mostly Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, who we've seen before, given time on screen. We have a different actor playing the Incredible Hulk now, but we have seen him have his own movie. We've seen Black Widow in Iron Man 2. We've seen Hawkeye and Thor. We're finally bringing all these characters together, and we're either advancing them and learning more about their character or introducing them. And what I think this movie does surprisingly well is it has 6 protagonists, 6 superheroes, and there's even more, Coulson, Nick Fury. And I feel like it dedicates an even amount of screen time to them. Now, I'm sure if I actually went and clocked in how much screen time each of these characters have, some would have more than others. But it doesn't feel like it's dominated by 1 or 2 characters. I feel like this movie isn't a story about Iron Man and his friends, or Captain America and the Avengers, or Thor meeting other superheroes on Earth. I feel like this movie is about all 6 Avengers and they're rallying together to, well, save the world. Well, guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and hey, what do you think? Where did your favorite movie end up on this list? What did you think about The Avengers being what I think is fair to say objectively the best MCU movie? Let me know your thoughts, and hey, remember, if you want to enter the Deadpool giveaway, leave a comment on this video saying, please, I would like to enter the Deadpool giveaway. The winner of that will be announced in the next few weeks or so. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.